Hi everybody, welcome to how to retopologize your 3D model and why you do it. So the question is, what is retopology? Well, here's an example. When you make a sculpt in ZBrush, you have the high resolution sculpt that you see on the left, but on the right, you've got what looks like a game engine ready model. So the question that I'm going to cover here is, how do you get that game resolution model, yet have the look of all the details that you made in ZBrush? Well, the answer is about applying maps to it and setting up UVs. So here's an example of a close-up head of this. If you look on the left, you can see what the model looks like once you have that map applied to it. And if I deselected it, it would look just like the ZBrush sculpt. On the right, that's what the model actually looks like. So the question is, how does this work? So in this next example here, on the left, you see what is called a normal map. And on the right, you see it applied to the model again. So this map here is something that you generate in ZBrush after you're done sculpting, and you can apply it to a low resolution model that you export. Here you can see actually there's where the head in the UVs actually is on the model. So I kind of drew a little arrow to the eye. So things that you need to think about when you are retopologizing. There's three things I like to think about. The first one is create a low polygon count model that has topology suitable for rigging and animation, as well as being optimized for the game it is being used in. So when you make a model, games can push a lot of polygons, but for rigging, it has to be optimized and the poly flow in a certain kind of way. That's the first thing. The second thing is you want to set up UV mapping on the low polygon count model so you can generate and assign a normal map to it and give it the appearance of the high resolution sculpt that you made in ZBrush. So we're going to get into this. We're going to do very, very simple UV mapping on it. You can definitely take it to a much higher level, but that's the next step. And then the last thing is you have to export the model, typically in FBX or an OBJ of the ZBrush file, along with the normal map in PNG or Targa format, and you bring these things together in a game engine like Unity or Unreal, and then it looks just like what you made in ZBrush, and you can animate it. So the most important part of the process, I'm going to give a demo, and I'll walk you through it and talk it out as I do it. So when you make a model, you've made this thing and it's all perfect, then suddenly your art director says, it needs to have horns. And trust me, when you're in a production setting, this happens all the time. So you're pulling this out and, oh no, look what happens to your topology. You can see those really stretched polygons. So when I go up to the high resolution, it looks okay, but when I go down, it no longer matches and the topology looks awful on that lowest version. So you can see I'm kind of fixing them up a little bit here, but as I go back to it, you can see, look how messed up that is. We can't bring that into a game. If I assigned a normal map to it, it would look really messed up in that part. So once again, this happens all the time. People will say, you need to change this. That's just how production works. And when you do that, you're going to have to retopologize it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my subtool menu under my tool menu on the right, and I'm going to rename that file. I'm going to rename that as a high resolution sculpt. And then I'm going to duplicate it. And the one beneath it, I'm going to rename this thing as a low resolution sculpt. And the reason is because when I actually start doing what's called baking my details, I'm going to really want to be sure that I know which is which. So I'm going to select my new low resolution sculpt in that subtool menu, go down to the Dynamesh menu. I usually set this to about 32 as a starting point, and I'm going to press Dynamesh. Say no to that, that's fine. And now you can see they were overlapping each other perfectly, but when you go back up there now and I turn off the high res, there it's kind of a low res version. Once again, we can go a lot deeper with this. You can ZRemesh, there's all kinds of stuff, but this is just a quick Cliff Notes version of how to do it. Just pulling out to show now that there are two models in there overlapping each other. So I'm going to turn off that high resolution sculpt, and I'm going to press Control D a few times, and if you look on the upper right, you can see that poly count increasing. And just get it up to enough that it's going to transfer those details well. You need to show the high resolution model again by pressing that little I button, select your low res, and then go down to project. I set my distance up higher, and then I press project. And look on the top, you see that little orange line moving. That tells you wait, wait, wait. And in a minute, it's all going to just suck onto, boop, right onto the high resolution model. I turn off that high res, and now I'm in my low resolution model there, and I'm pressing Shift D to go down the subdivisions, and you can see that topology on the horns is fixed. Go back up it. I'm running some tests right now. Go back down, go up, kind of move it around, say, okay, that looks good. So what I'm going to do now, I no longer need that high resolution sculpt. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to delete that. So you can see, actually, look at that one. I'm moving it up and down, and you can see that's the messed up one. We don't need that anymore. The details have been transferred to the new sculpt, so delete it. Yep, poof. Now, we just need to make a normal map for this and export the model. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my plugins, and I'm going to go down to ZRemesher. I'm going to turn off symmetry and hit unwrap all. That is going to make some very dirty UVs. You are going to want to go through and learn to expand on this and make better UV maps, but this will work and get it into a game engine, and the purpose here is just to give you the overview. So back in that tool menu, I'm going to scroll down to the normal map, and I'm going to hit create normal map. I'm going to hit clone NM, and now I go up to my texture palette here, and I'm going to go down to flip V for flip vertical and export it. Pick a location that you're familiar with. It could be anything. It could be like just a folder that you make, and I'm going to call this something that I know, like character normal map. We're saving it. And this is just the export choices here that ZBrush gives you. Have a look at it, and then just say yes, because I'm a little bit cropped off on the bottom. Okay, and you've exported that successfully. Now go up to export at the top of the tool menu, and you're going to export your model and save it out. Save it out as an OBJ file, that's fine. You can always save it as an FBX later or whatever works. OBJ, FBX, they're both going to be fine in this case. So at this next step, you can see that I'm using Unity here, and I'm importing in the models. I'm taking the normal map and the OBJ. I'm going to drag my model into the Unity viewport, and then I'm going to, maybe I'll scale it a little bit, turn it around, just whatever I want to position. You can either position the light or position the model. The only thing that I'm worried about here is just kind of testing it. So just to, just get some light on it. You can either, once again, turn the light or turn the model. It's fine. I'm going to create a new material. You can label it if you want. I don't think I do here. And I'm going to assign erroneously the normal map to the color. Let's watch me fix that. I'm going to go to the normal map slot, and I'm going to assign it and say fix now, and then I'm going to drag it onto the model, and there you go. So you can see we have a low resolution sculpt now, but it looks just like the one in ZBrush, and it's because you assigned the normal map to it. And then I'm turning the color down a bit so you can see it. Well, I hope that you found this helpful, and of course always feel free to ask me any questions, but that's the basic overview of how to get your ZBrush models into a game engine.